what I'll try to do is combine these all again, or I'm not really sure. I'll try to find out more what's going on, why this keeps cutting out on me. I did have an SD card in here, and I saw that the SD card was full. I don't know if that was the reason or not. I hope I don't lose you again. Hopefully people come back. Hey, Daryl, if he was there, Daryl, thanks for commenting and talking, I think, right when it went out. So let's see. I'm looking at it right now. As where I left off was I had just coded one of the images that I'm going to be working on with its gum layer, and I was taking the mask off. I'm not really sure where I lost you in that. So hopefully you saw that. But I'm going to be doing another one here right now anyway. So that one's drying. Got one more image. I don't know if you can see that very well, but I'm really kind of excited about it. It kind of harkens back to the work I was doing in Detroit back when I was still living there. Some of the night work I was doing there. And I'm really kind of excited about seeing how the gum layer works on this. So this one is also dry and ready to go as far as my next layer on there. So I'm just going to kind of yap at you all over here, masking it off. Hopefully you can see me here. Yeah, that's over there. Tap the screen, and what that does is it helps it maybe follow me specifically, and hopefully it won't go wonky on me again. So anyway, back over here to my masking. And hope you're all having a good day. Whoever's watching, hope you're all having a good day out there. I mean, today, as I'm recording this, it's you've got 45 degrees Fahrenheit outside, which is incredible for us here. Especially this time of year. It's a really nice day. And but it has been raining, and on top of 2 feet of snow, rain isn't a pretty thing. Last night I tried to go up to the store after it got going, and it was fairly warm when I got out at the end of the driveway here. And it was like blaze ice everywhere. I could hardly move. I was lucky to get back on my own driveway again. It lost me. There we go. Yeah, so it was a little short harrowing ride. I'm glad I didn't go. So got to go run that errand today. And right now it's windy like crazy outside. I don't think you can hear it here, but it's like really, really honking, and I'm hoping I don't lose power. It's very often when we get up in those 45, 50 mile an hour sustained winds, we'll lose power here. But so far so good. All right, so I've got my tape layer on there. And I do not have any other mask layers, so you should just hang with me here for a minute. I'm going to go out and do another one. Just talk amongst yourselves. You can probably hear me. Let's get some more paper here. And next time we'll cutting into the strips. I rarely print any bigger than this size right here. I suppose if I was printing real big, I'd have to mask these out with much larger sheets, obviously. But I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Alright, so I go through here and I do the same thing. And once again, I did a video on masking that you could look up. It's linked earlier in these videos as well. Now, I do this just simply because I'm kind of being retentive and I like to keep my work clean like that. I know a lot of people like that rough edge look when they do their palladium printing. The more, kind of quote-unquote artistic look with the brush marks and things on the end, but I kind of like, I come from a background of silver frame when I was doing larger with a nice easel, and I like that clean edge look. But like I say, this is kind of the proof I was working on. You can see the rough edges on this as well, and some people really like that. I mean, it's basically an aesthetic choice, and whatever floats your boat. So I've got that one ready again, and so you can see that I've got it masked off. And so I come back over here, and the same bit of dichromate and pigment that I used before is fine to use on this because it doesn't dry out that quick in the roller. Actually, I'll take a little bit more of it and pour it on there just because I applied most of it to the last. Right? Yeah, there we go. I make sure I'm all the way to the edges of my mask. And this one's got a few bubbles in it and things, so I take my other roller here and I just very lightly roll it over the surface. It gives you a really nice coating. This pigment, different pigments work better than others, and this pigment tends to work really well in giving you a nice even coat. I don't know if you can see that there. So, pulling off the mask, and I'll check back on the first print that we coated and see if it's dry enough yet to go ahead and expose. Yeah, there we go. So there we go. Another one ready to go to dry. We'll set that there, and just to give that one more minute on that one to dry, I'm going to mask up another one to coat it, and this will be my third print that I printed last night. Now this one's got a couple of dust specks in it that I'm going to have to retouch out later, so it's my least favorite of the 3 prints I did last night. But there's no reason to throw it away because they're just small dust marks. You can see there inside. There's little white spots. And, I hate dust specks in prints because they turn what's normally, kind of an illusionary 3-dimensional image into just a 2-dimensional piece of paper. It's very unprofessional to leave dust spots in your image. Some people do. The great Robert Frank, I remember seeing one of his shows of the Americans once, and God, I can't believe how many dust spots and curls and hairs and things were left in there and not spotted out, but that's just the way it goes. Still great imagery. So, one more side to mask. Whew, I can really hear the wind howling out there. Hopefully a tree won't come through the roof while we're doing this. Had a lot of wind this winter, and I've lost a lot of trees. For those of you that don't know, I'm on 11 acres here in northern Michigan, and I have a lot of trees, and over the last several years we've been suffering from an invasive species disease on the beech trees, beech bark disease, and it's pretty terrible. It's high mortality rate, and the trees just get old and they snap off in the wind, so I've lost a lot of things lately, and it's scary when you're in here and you're in one of these windstorms because you never know what's going to come down. A lot of widowmakers up in those trees. So anyway, got this one coated here, ready to go, and got it masked, ready to go with the coating. Yeah, it's looking really nice. I love the way this stuff goes down. Yeah, that one I'm not even going to need to do the second roller on. So, pull off the mask. Looks like I'm still recording, or still live here, so appreciate anybody that's still here with me. Looks like there might be a few of you. Got some comments too that I'll read after I get this one on the drying table, drying rack. There we go. Last print, ready to go. Put it down here to dry. Look and see what people are saying here. Hey Jerry, how you doing? 60 and windy. 45 and super windy. Wow, yeah, it's crazy. You know, the wind is really nice. Measurable snow tomorrow down there? Really? I haven't even looked that far ahead. You know, I just like to deal with what we have to deal with here now as it is. Yeah, it was, you know, last night that rain was really, you know, it was pretty warm out, but the ground was still frozen. I just wasn't thinking when I tried to go out to the store, and fortunately, you know, didn't even get out of the end of my driveway. But I tend to feel kind of isolated up here where you can't go anywhere like that. The snow and the ice like that. Not so much wind, but you know, we can pretty good lately on that. And, not getting, oh wow, so are you hearing me? This was unplugged in my pocket. I hope everybody was getting me. Yeah, anyway, so it was, hey, Fargo, North Dakota. I bet you your weather's probably no better than it is here. Hi, James. Welcome. Glad you're here. Boy, sorry about that. I could hear that my mic was off, so I'm hoping you heard this. This is pretty unprofessional week here. You know, I've lost the stream twice now, and hopefully we're all together again. Anyway. So if you didn't hear me, I've been coating gum layers on some prints here. So let's see. Better now. Yeah, much better. Oh, sorry, you guys. It came unplugged in my pocket. I've got this little wireless gig in my pocket. And yeah, well, you know, the best laid plans, right? That's all right. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to lock this on me so you can follow me over to the... There we go. So you can follow me over to the sink here. I'm going to go over there and rinse this. You with me? Yeah, not staying with me. So let's see. Let's just leave it that way. I'm going to go over here off camera. I'm going to do a little bit of rinsing of this. Oh yeah, you are sticking. It's trying to stick with me. I don't know what it's doing. Here, you guys have some fun there on camera while I'm doing this. As you can tell, I got to get a lot better at this. Or have a producer working in the control room for me. So I don't know where the camera is right now. Let's see. Let's just do this. That's my rack. Here we go. We're flipping back. Okay, I'm going to leave you looking that way while I finish doing this. So what I do is I rinse down everything real good and just put my rollers off to the side here, kind of hanging up to dry until the next time I'm ready to use them. And then I rinse off the acrylic. Now Jerry, who's on right now, has been here and worked in an actual physical workshop, so he can visualize what I'm up to right now. Here we go, coming back on screen. So I got my acrylic piece all cleaned up and ready to go for the next one. And put that off to the side, ready to go again. And I'll also put my little film holder over here to get rinsed out as well. And again, if you get any of this on your hands, you want to give a good wash down, which I'm doing right now. Like I say, normally I use gloves. All right, I'm back. Y'all still hanging in there? Let's see, Jerry. Use the drone, tracks better. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. You know, I could set the drone up here on a... Yeah, I don't know why this thing isn't tracking so well. You know, some days it works really well, and other days it doesn't. And what's happened here the last couple times is it starts to like have a mind of its own. It seems to start looking around the room for me when I'm standing right here. So I don't know what that's about, other than maybe it doesn't recognize me with my glasses on. Yeah, that is funny. Cool. Well, I'm glad I'm on there. You know, so let's see. I'll check on these in a second. You know, I don't know what you missed and everything in the you know, going between the live streams here when they kept shutting off on me. So I don't think I'm going to go back. I might end up giving this one up as a bad job or leaving it as an example of what happens when I don't have my
my stuff together here. But anyway, I'm gonna look down here. I think that the first one is probably dry now. Now you really, really, really want to make sure that these are dry before you again register your negative on here, because you don't want to destroy your negative, especially if you're using an in-camera negative. Now I tend not to use in-camera negatives anymore. You know, I like to use the digital negatives and have them created just for the specific process that I'm working on. So anyway, you can see I've got a dried gum bichromate layer on here. It is light sensitive, but there's very little UV light in here right now. It's only sensitive to the UV light. And what I'm going to do is turn on my light table here and put the print off to the side, because you know there's a little bit more UV light in there. Let's get the negative. My print frame, I think the negative is in here. Yeah, there's the negative. So this is the negative that I have right now. And as you can see, I've got it masked off as well as the paper. So what happens is if I do get a little spillover on the edges with gum bichromate that spills under my mask or anything, these cover that and they shouldn't get exposed and hardened. So then in general, they'll wash off in my development afterwards. So it doesn't always happen that way. If you've got a real staining pigment, sometimes it's pretty you know, it's pretty hard to get it out of there. You know, you'll see a ghost image or a ghost of your pigment around the edge, but I don't consider that, you know, an unfinished print. I just consider that, you know, part of the handmade look of the print. So I take this negative over here and I'm going to re-register it. Now I do that by putting it on the light table like this and just making sure that it lines up perfectly. Now some people that do this use registration pins, especially if you're doing a much larger print, you'll use registration pins. But for these small prints, it doesn't matter that much. So anyway, I've got the negative registered again. I put a little bit of tape on the edge of it to hold it into place. I'm going to put it back into my contact printing frame, face down. Put the frame back in and the spring strainers. Am I still live? Oh, I am. Good. Okay. And I'm a little off. So what I got to do is pull it out. Once again, take it back over to the light table. Sometimes this takes a little bit of time, a little hit and miss. Plus I got a little schmutz in there that I want to get out of the negative. There we go. Alrighty. So we'll get back registered again. Yeah. Good. Put a little bit of tape on the other side too, just to keep it in position. All right, back into the print frame. Kill the light there. There we go. All set. So over here into the plate burner, I'm going to set this at, well, I want it to kind of go into this, and it's a dark print, so I'm going to set it at probably 7 minutes. Actually, I'm going to go a full-on 9 minutes, which was what the original print was, because I'm really trying to kind of, it's the highlight color, so I'm really trying to burn that color in. You know, I want it going in as many places as I can in the print. Now, that's one of the things about gum bichromate is the longer the exposure and the longer that the gum is exposed, the more that is hardened and stays into place. So when you're looking at your negative, you know, let me pull out another negative here. You can see, you know, there's obviously the dark areas of the negative and there's the light area of the light areas. Well, the light areas is where more light is going to shine through the negative, and therefore that area is going to get most of the pigment and most of the gum right away, because it's going to have no blockage there, and the UV light is going to hit and harden that. Now in the darker areas, of course, it takes a little longer for the light to get through there, and therefore those areas take a little longer to harden the gelatin. So the longer your exposure, the more you're putting your color and your pigment into your highlight areas as opposed to your low light areas or your shadow areas. So what you can do then is when you're doing your different layers of gum, you know, if you want your one color, I like to use a lighter color, of course, because you put a lighter color into the highlights than you put into the lowlights, because when you throw that second color in, it kind of discounts the lighter color, if you know what I mean. So what you've got is you've got your highlight color in there that you've burned for a longer time that goes into the white areas, which on your negative are the dark areas, of course. And so you put the color into the more highlight areas with the longer exposure. So if I want to go with a second layer of color or a second layer of gum and pigment and put that more into the shadow detail areas, you know, so if I want to take a cooler color like a sepia or a bluish or anything like that, and I want to put that into the shadow details, then I would recoat that print again, register the negative on there, and then I would do the the exposure a shorter amount of time. So then it would throw that pigment more into the darker, the clearer areas of your negative, or the shadow areas, the darker areas of your print, and not so much into the highlight areas. So that's kind of the ways you do the split toning without changing your negative. You can use the same negative, do a longer exposure your first time, throw that color into the highlights, whereas you do your second coating of a darker color, and then you do a shorter exposure and you throw that into your shadow areas. And therefore, it wouldn't have gotten into the highlights, and those areas will just wash out in your development. Now, when you're developing this, you just develop it in lukewarm water. So you're not using any kind of chemistry to develop it. It's just basically the areas of gum that have been hit by the most light harden the most and therefore don't wash away as easy. So anyway. I'm going to put this negative back off to the side here. I still have 5 minutes over here on this print. I'm going to have a little sip of Coke here and turn on the computer and see if anybody's here. Yeah, there's a few people here and some likes. Thanks. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you watching, especially, you know, when I'm kind of pulling off the Bush League version here, you know. I think what happened was I had an SD card in here, and my first broadcast, I told the software to record it, onto my own SD card, so it wasn't only going out live, it was recording on my own SD card in the machine here. And I think that that's what happened is I turned it off, and I didn't turn it off correctly, so it was still recording to my SD card. And when the SD card got full, it just stopped recording and it killed the live stream. So I apologize for that. Yeah, anyway, let's see here. Hey, James, still here, good. Well, yeah, I should probably just shut up, but it's just kind of like you're hanging in the darkroom here with me, and I'm just trying to show you as much as I can while I'm doing it. Once again, I'm still working on this gum over platinum video. Actually, to be honest with you, if I was still actually working on it, it would be done by now. But I had a bunch of print orders that I had to get to, and I had just life happening here, and just a lot of stuff. You know, I'm trying to get photo stock together, and so I just haven't really been as diligent about this as I should. And plus, I've got the Venice video that I'm working on right now, and I'm having a lot of fun with that. But it takes a lot of time to do the editing on those videos afterward because, sorry about that. I'm trying to make them better every time, so I tend to take a little bit longer time in doing them. Let's see here. Got some. Hi, Daryl. Have you tried making a digital negatives for the highlights, midtones, and shadows to adjust the colors? Yes, I have. And not only have I done that, I've done them in ways where I'll separate the negatives out. Like if you're going to be doing a tricolor gum or a four-color gum, you can pretty much simulate a color photograph and to a degree, because there is, differences because you're using watercolor to do it in the pigments. There are some tricolor gum people that are just awesome. Christina Z. Anderson, or Chris as she likes to be called. There's Keith Taylor up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. As a matter of fact, Keith is somebody that sometime I want to go and learn that process kind of the way that he does it, because he prints for Cy DeGoss. And oh good God, the prints that man makes are just incredible. So, but anyway, what I'm saying is that you can separate those negatives out so that you can make a color image. So what I do sometimes is I'll take that, and I'm starting to do it a little bit more, but I'm not throwing them out there as much because I really want to kind of perfect my workflow on them, is separating the negatives into Cmyk, and then taking my K level and printing my palladium in that level, and then just printing I don't go the full 4 colors, and I don't try to simulate a color thing, but what I'll do is I'll take that next negative that was done for, say, the cyan or for the yellow layer, and I'll print that with the pigment layer. And that really is starting to show some signs of some great stuff. Bob Carney, if many of you might be familiar with Bob in Toronto, and if not, you should familiarize yourself with Bob. Bob does gum printing as well, and he does some really nice stuff, really nice things in multicolors, and I've seen some really beautiful work from him. But I still tend to work more in the black and white and just use this as kind of a toning thing in the black and white imagery, the monochrome imagery that I like to make. But I do really want to do more of that, and it really does. To answer your question, Daryl, yes, it really does add something to the photograph. So if you're trying this at home, get down with this pretty much before you get to that, because it gets a little bit more confusing when you go into the Cmyk. Basically you've got to, you print the opposite colors in, it's just, you have to think more with your color theory. If any of you have been color printers or see color printers in the past, you'll know what I mean. It's just a little bit more to wrap your head around in doing that, but it works really nicely, yeah. And also, to answer your question further, Daryl, is it's in some of them I've gone beyond that, and I've done the highlights, like you say, or I'll do some areas where I'll mask out certain areas. And that's an image that I did. I got one right here, as a matter of fact, like this one. And what I did, and you can't see it so well here because it's kind of dull. I never carried it all the way through, but I created a mask on the second negative that only had this area in it. So I did just one color for the sky and the foreground, and then I printed the building in a completely different color, which is a yellow, which you just can't really perceive. It's real subtle, but it's there. So that's fun to do as well. Anyway, okay, let's see here. David, sorry I'm late. Hey, Dave, how are you doing? Let's see. Making a lighter neg for adding either highlights or shadows. That's a really good idea. Now, here's another thing too, is that I don't know what process you're going through for making your digital negatives. I mean, if you're using Richard Boatwell's program right now, there's a slider in his thing, and I've not gotten that into that in any of my instructional videos yet, but there is a slider in there where you can take your good curve that you've already made and you can bump it up and kick up the highlights a little bit, or dumb it down a little bit and kick it back down. So you can make a slightly more high contrast version of that curve, or a slightly less contrasty version of that curve, and that tends to help as well. I have not done that myself yet as far as using the 2 different negatives to print my gum overs, but it's definitely, in theory, it should work really well. So yeah, maybe you want to try that. Okay, well, this is cool. Got some people there. You're talking with me. So I got my exposure going on here. It's done. I'm going to pull that out right now, and I'm going to take it over here and set myself up here in the other tray here. And what I might do is physically turn the camera around to where I am, so I don't get it trying to follow me and get lost again. So let me go get that out of the plate burner here. So here we go. Now, unlike when you're printing the platinum layer, sometimes, especially if you're working with a good, a well-humidified piece of paper, you'll see a latent image of your image before you go to your development, but you don't really get that with this. It looks exactly the same coming out of the plate burner as it did going in. So let's see here. Let's see if I can just turn this around with me, and yeah, there you go. Follow me over here. I don't know if my up and down thing works. No, it doesn't work when this is working this way. So anyway, now I've still got these other trays set up right now with clearing baths because I've been doing the palladium layers as well. So I'm not going to disturb those. I've got 2 trays to work with for doing my gum development here. I'm going to set the print off over here so that I don't spill any water on it at this time. So what I'm trying to do is get a kind of a lukewarm bath here. Now that's another thing that I didn't tell you, is that the warmer your bath, the more it will wash off the pigments in the gum when you're doing this. So if you do get something that's stubborn, or if you expose it a little too much and it's not developing out for you quite as well, you can always warm up the water in your clearing bath here, or in your developing bath. So there I've got this water. It's, you know, a little bit better than room temperature, basically. You know, so I'd say I've got 75, 80 degrees here. And that's a good place to start with, because I don't want everything to wash off really quickly. Now the thing is, again, I'm going to leave the first tray. The first tray I always just leave because that's where most of the dichromate comes off. And I like to save that out into another drum that I eventually added sodium sulfite to, and kind of do a little bit of a chemical shift to it, and then I let it evaporate off. And what's left is I take down to the waste station down here and just give it in as hazardous waste. But that doesn't happen very often because it takes quite a bit of time to collect enough to really send in. But basically I try to keep as much of the ammonium dichromate out of my septic system as possible. Excuse the cough here. So I'm going to drop this in here. So again, I like to save this first bath, and this first bath is mostly where just the dichromate comes off. Now I don't think you can see down that far right now, so I'll just leave it like this. Now I can see the water is yellowing because that's the dichromate coming out. And that's what happens, is that the dichromate tends to be quite orange or yellow. I'll show that to you sometime. But when you mix it in with the pigment, very often you'll coat the paper and it looks, even though I'm coating a yellow pigment, it has this kind of yellowish cast anyway because that's the dichromate. Well, what happens is the dichromate comes out of it really quickly in the bath, and that's when the yellow comes out, and so your color starts to show up. So anyway, that's enough in there right now, and I'm going to pull that out. And as you can see, it's lightened up a little bit, and the color is kind of disappearing from certain areas, but it is staying into the highlights and shadows where I want it. Let me bring it over a little closer to you so you can see. I hope it's perceiving the color nicely. It's really, really, I'm quite excited about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that off into I'm going to set that tray off here, and then I'm going to put this into just a nice clear water. And what's going to happen now is just the last bit of, and I'm doing it cool because I don't want much more of this pigment to wash out. But I do want to get the rest of the dichromate out of here. So what I'm doing is just running cool water in, and yeah, see, I can see that there's not much more color coming off of this, so I'm almost there. I'm just going to leave it for a few more seconds here. Now normally, this is quite a dark print that I'm working on. If I was working on a lighter print or more of an open print, I would be making some longer exposures and probably have to do much longer development times to get the pigment to where I want it washed out. But these don't take very long when I'm working on a darker print like this. But you do want to make sure that you wash out the dichromate out, and I don't see any of the yellowing in there anymore. And that's why I leave the first tray, and that's the first tray is the one that I use to dump out. I mean to dump into the saved drum. Okay. So now I'm just going to let that rinse off and just rinse like that. And I'm going to take you with me over here, and I'm going to hang it up here on the, there we go. It's a beauty. Wow. Now I am going to eventually dry these out and recoat them. What I'll do is I'll end up masking them once again, and then I'll coat another layer of gum and pigment on there, and I'm probably going to go with a darker, a more cool, an indigo, or I might even go a red just to shake it up a little bit to see what happens in there, because it won't come out red. You know, again, what I'm telling you, like I've told you before, is I'm not recreating a color image with these. I'm just laying down a thin veil, a hint of tonality to certain areas. Of tonality of color and pigment. Let's see here, I'm going to read up. Jerry, I remember that one. Hoping you get the gum over this week. Good, you should. Don't want to forget this stuff. Yeah, anyway, so this is cool. I'm going to get one more of them going here. Let me take the last real good one. Like I told you, there's one that had a dust speck in it that I wasn't that that happy about. Let me turn the camera so you can see a little bit more over that way where I am. And got my negative, still in the print frame here. I pull that out, turn on the light, and once again, register the negative on here. There we go. Now another thing about this is that you know, it's good to get the registration correct, but sometimes you want to be just a hair off, because that little bit off will add just a little bit of almost three-dimensional quality to the image, you know. And so sometimes I do that, you know, where I'll just kind of purposely make it go off just, you know, not even a 32nd of an inch, just a real tiny bit of amount. And it's not that perceptible unless you really look at it closely, but what it does is it gives it a little bit more of that three-dimensional quality, a little depth. So there we go, we got that set up real nice. I'm gonna put it over here into the plate burner. And once again, I'm gonna do that for 9 minutes like I did the other, because I did like the way that came out. And there we go. Let's turn this back around this way. So let me get to that one. And in the meantime, I went over here. I've got let me show you over here. I've got a cabinet that I use. This is an old arcade drawing cabinet that I use. I put a humidifier down inside of it. I'm going to turn that off right now because I've got 3 sheets of paper in here that are nicely humidified right now. And I'm going to bring one of them out, and I'm going to leave that off. Now, one of the things that happens up here in the, well, it happens a lot of places in the winter in the northern hemisphere here, but especially up here, is the air gets super dry in the wintertime, and that's really pretty much contrary to palladium printing, because you do want humidity when you're actually doing those layers. Humidity doesn't work as well, doesn't really matter. In fact, it can be somewhat of a detriment if there's too much humidity and you're doing the gum layers. But for the palladium layers, you want a nice humidified piece of paper, and it tends to work better for your Cmyks in the long run. And one of the reasons being is that when the paper is more humidified, it absorbs less of the emulsion that you're putting on it. So more of that emulsion stays up near the surface, which is beneficial because you know, the more that it's not soaked into the paper. I mean, you definitely, in the platinum palladium process, it has to soak into the paper, but what it does is when the humidity is in there, it gives it a little bit less, it goes a little less deep into the paper. So you can tell in an area like this, in the wintertime when things are really dry, like this image that's dry already, you know, you can hear it, it's really dry. I mean, it even feels like it's sucking moisture out of my fingers when I touch it. So I tend to humidify the paper before I use it. Now, the other thing is in the summertime up here in the woods, it's the exact opposite. I have to put a dehumidifier in here and suck water out of the air because every piece of paper feels wet and that kind of thing. So I tend to have to humidify this time of the year, dehumidify. But rather than trying to humidify the whole place, I just humidify that little cabinet over there. So that's an idea for you if you've got a small place and you've got a little small personal humidifier. You can always put up a string in there and hang your paper in, run the humidifier for a couple of hours, turn it off, and just leave the paper sit in there. You know, you want it to kind of evenly absorb that paper out of the air rather than wet it, you know. I mean, otherwise you could just take a piece of paper and you could take a sponge and put water on it, but that doesn't work well. You want it to be absorbed nice and evenly in there. So let's see here. We still have 6 minutes on this. I think what I'm going to do is take you through that one, and then maybe we'll call it quits for today. Let's see. Yeah, nobody else saying anything in there. There's still a few of you there. I really appreciate it. Once again, apologize if you've been around since the beginning. I apologize for the fits and starts here. You know, it looks like I've got it now, and I think that my problem was that full SD card. So I won't do that again in the future. And the sound thing, kind of an idiot, but I had it unplugged in my pocket. So you know, I'll see what I can do with this video to repurpose it and leave it out there. But it may be the black sheep in the whole group here. So, you know, what I'd like you to do, I'm going to leave you, you know, is kind of like spread the word a bit. You know, you must have some friends out there that might be interested in this. So kind of tell people about this. I'm going to start advertising it a little bit more, you know, through my Facebook and through the channel and things as far as doing the Sundays live. But it would be fun to have more people and have some more questions coming at me. Let's see. Hey, Daryl, Bill, it's great seeing a real working photographer in their dark and working. Thanks, man. I really appreciate you watching. It makes a big deal. And plus, you know, the other thing is I'm up here in the middle of the woods, isolated. It's kind of fun to at least know somebody's out there hanging out with me. But yeah, thanks very much for doing this. You know, I'm going to talk more about being a photographer and all the stuff that I go through. You know, I mean, I know that everybody's got kind of a glorified view of it, but any of you that are working doing this stuff, you know it's not real easy a lot, you know. So, you know, thing is, you got a passion for something and you just can't stop doing it, you know. I mean, it's not like I could at this time of life decide, you know, I want to go be an engineer or do something else. And because there's nothing else I really want to be, you know. I mean, I really, really enjoy this, and it's just, you know, it's part of my life now. So I'm glad that you're here hanging out with me. You know, I do workshops up here, and I do one-on-ones too. So any of you that might want to try to come up here to Northern Michigan, I mean, Jerry's been here. He knows what it's like. You know, he lives in Michigan. It's a little easier. But I've had people fly in. We've got an airport real close here that's, you know, services out of Detroit through Delta. So it's easy to get here. And you know, it's a really wonderful place to be. But I'll be having more workshops, and you know, Woodstock, Photostock is going to be coming up in the summer, and I'm still, you know, still putting that all together. The registration is supposed to open up on March 15th, but that only gives me a few more days, and I'm still not quite ready, so I might push that back a little bit. And the only reason I'm not quite ready is that some of the things I would like to, you know, say are going to happen, I can't be sure yet until I talk to the county and find out which permits I need, that kind of thing. Basically, we're going to set it up as a kind of an outdoor art fair this year for the Saturday, so more about that later. So let's see here. I'm back down to 3 minutes. I'm going to have another sip of cola here. And but I'd like you to, you know, I know there's just a few out there right now. Hey, Dave. Oh, let's see. Did some remote video and the sound would not work. It worked the day before. So what were you using? Are you using an Osmo when you're doing it? Because this little you know, transmitter that I have here, it has a microphone in it, but it also has the remote mic plug on it, which is what I'm using right now. But there's a reset on the side that you can do to link your different things. So sometimes that link breaks, and then I'll press and hold that, and it'll reconnect. So I don't know if that's what you're having, if that's the problem you're having. Yeah, it's fun, you know, I mean, I'm having so much fun with this video stuff. You know, I mean, I love my photography, and still photography is still my thing, but it's really fun to be able to tell a different kind of a story, and I'm really, really enjoying it. You know, I mean, like you, I tend to shoot a lot of stuff, and I don't know what I'm going to use it for ever, you know. Some of it gets used for B-roll, but I really do like shooting it, and I'm getting very interested in augmenting my still photography with it in some way, you know. I mean, some of you might have seen some of these digital stills I've been doing lately, which is basically taking my D810 out and setting it up, framing a really nice image that I would shoot as a still image, but then letting the video run on it for a while, and you know, just to see what happens in that environment as things move. And it's really, really interesting, and I haven't really figured out where I'm going to go with it yet. I started playing around with some editing features, you know, and taking and mixing, matching different videos together and stuff. I just don't know what to do. You know, I'm still kind of caught at that stage that you're at when you first discovered HDR, or you first discovered some new filter on your phone. You know, you're kind of doing it because you can do it, not because you should be doing it. And, you know, I don't really have a great reason to be doing something yet until I kind of think it through a little bit more, but I'm having a blast with it, that's for sure. You know, not only with the drone, but with this thing here, you know, I mean, it's just really fun to shoot different video clips and starting to think about them and how they work together, and you know, it's pretty cool. as far as still photography, you know, while I've got y'all here and I've got a couple minutes left to go, I'm really, this whole war thing is horrible, obviously, but I've been looking at a lot of the imagery being made, and it's really reconnecting me and making me remember that a still image and still photography is still extremely powerful, and I've been thinking, looking at these horrible images coming through, that the still images are even more impactful than seeing the moving images, and I'm not really sure why that is, but you know, but anyway, you know, there's some people out there that are making some great images right now, and I hope that everybody stays safe, and you know, I mean, obviously, I don't want anybody getting hurt, but it's really something. This is kind of what got me into photography as a little kid. You know, I mean, I grew up like a lot of you maybe during Vietnam era and a little bit before. So, you know, my grandfather used to get all of the weekly magazines. He used to get Life and Look and stuff. And, you know, it was a period there in the 60s when I was looking at these, it was really heavy. You know, there was a lot of war stuff going on with Vietnam. There was the civil rights movement going on. There was a lot of the greatest photography being made at that time. And that's really what got me into this in the beginning. You know, I mean, I just wanted to be, I didn't know that they were different photographers, but I just wanted to go out there and make those images because they just seemed so impactful. And even as a kid, 7, 8 years old, it used to just fascinate me to see this stuff. And anyway, that's kind of what got me into it. And so lately, watching this happen, you know, of course it's a horrible thing that's happening, and I hope I don't get reminded of this too much, but you really do get reminded of how impactful and how important it is that there's people out there making images of what's going on. So more power to all of you men and women out there making these pictures. It's crazy how, you know, how you've kept your you know, kept it together under such pretty horrible circumstances. So that out of the way, just get on New York Times and start looking at the photographs lately. It's crazy good. So I heard my, we're still live. I heard my timer shut off here. Let's go get this print out of here. All righty. Pull the negative off. Let's take it over here into the sink. All right, so I'm going to go into my first tray, which is just the one that I'm using for mostly removing dichromate. And already it's getting kind of yellow in there and stuff. I'll read the comments again in a minute. Looks like somebody might have said something there. So this is pretty cool. You know, I started thinking, you know, I set this up for Sundays. And the reason I set this up for Sundays is because I noticed this is when, you know, in my analytics, this is when most of my subscribers are on. So I decided to try it for now, but then I started thinking, well, you know, I go away a lot and I like to be away on weekends. But it'd be pretty fun if I'm anywhere where I've got a good clear cell signal, I can still go live. So, you know, we'll see what happens here. I'm planning a couple of small trips here in the future, near future. I want to get back out to the desert again, and I'm kind of formulating a Highway 395 plan maybe, but we'll see. I don't really know whether I'm going to be able to pull that off or not. I was supposed to be coming up here real soon. I was supposed to be in Yosemite with Kara Kuklis teaching the digital negative part of a workshop, but that workshop's been canceled and I believe moved into May. I don't really know the details on that, but it might be around May 5th. So if you're interested, go to the Ansel Adams website, Ansel Adams Gallery website, and look at their workshops and see what that is. Like I say, I don't really know, so I'm going to try to couple something with another video for everybody out there in YouTube land. But yeah, I'm kind of bummed. I was supposed to be getting on a plane here in about a week, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So I'm looking maybe more at end of April, doing something on my own, and then coupling it with the May one if I'm part of that one. I haven't really gotten the details on it yet. So anyway, but whether I'm going to be there or not, check it out. Cmyk's going to be teaching one. I know there's a few people in there. I'm not sure if it's full yet. They don't have a lot. They don't allow a lot of people in that because when you're actually there, you're working in Ansel Adams' old Yosemite darkroom, and it's a pretty small space. So you know you get much more than 4 or 5, 6 people in there. It gets pretty crowded. So anyway, check them out. If not for this one, for a one in the future. They do a lot of other ones too, but Cmyk is really the only one that gets to use the darkroom as a darkroom. I know that Charlie Kramer goes in there and he does digital printing, and I think that Jerry might have even been at one of his out there. But anyway, it's a really cool place. If you've not been to Yosemite, it's like the king daddy of all the U.S. parks. It's beautiful, and not the biggest, but impactful. You know, it's incredible, and it's just kind of cool to be there in the whole shadow of Ansel, and you know, you're kind of living in Ansel Adams' photographs in a way. And when you go to the gallery and there's people there that are very knowledgeable about it, and you know, the whole business aspect is still run by Matthew Adams, the grandson of Ansel, and it's really a cool place. So think about that. Okay, I've got the dichromate mostly out of it, and as you can see, it's looking just like the other one. It's looking really nice. I'm going to put it over here into the clear bath and run a little bit more on it. Oh boy, this is just what I thought it would be. I'm very happy with this print. Let that sit there for a second. Yeah, so anyway, let me turn this back around here, and I'm going to have a look at my computer here and see what people have been saying. Hey, Cmyk, May 18th to 21st. 2 spots available. Holy crap. Man, you know, this is great. All right, so Cmyk said it officially. Go to the Ansel Adams workshop and you'll see what he's got going out there. You know, I can't recommend them highly. I mean, not only is he a really great teacher, just being in that environment is so crazily charged, you know. I can almost smell the air right now. 2 spots available. Hey, Cmyk, how you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for watching. Let's see. Yeah, this is cool. We're getting more people. Hey, Matt, how are you? Yeah, I am, Matt. I really like this a lot. I don't know if you saw earlier, but I gave you a really nice plug. It was really fun coming on yours last week. Now, you should give yourself a plug here. Like, I didn't know that you did the live thing, and I think you do them on Fridays. I'm not sure why that one was on Sunday. And I'm trying not to compete, so you know, let me know if something's happening that way, because you know, anyway, I noticed that some of the same people are on your channel, and I really enjoyed it. I had a great time. I wanna continue to join in on your thing here. Let's see. Okay, Cmyk says advanced platinum printing on this one, so he's not going to be getting into the gum, I am to assume. So that's cool. All right, Daryl, I agree with still images and their impact. Yeah, you know, there's nothing like it. It's pretty wild what happens, you know. And I just noticed that last night I was watching, you know, I had been going through my phone looking at all the images coming through on New York Times, and then I saw on the news, I saw some of the images, and I was kind of like comparing it, and it was like, wow, you know, I noticed that when I see a still image, I look at it and I look at everything, and you can look at everybody's faces and you can see everything. Whereas when you're looking at a video image, you kind of look at the main subject of whatever's happening, and you kind of lose all of that off in the periphery. So maybe that's it. I don't really know, but it definitely seems to have more of an impact. Come over in the fall, Cmyk says. Fall, so anyway, throw that out there, Cmyk, so people can see. Yeah, anyway, so thanks, Matt, and thanks for everybody for checking in here. Let me get this print out of here. I'm going to do my final rinse on it and pull it out of the bath. Well, it's cool to have Cmyk online, because Cmyk's the one that taught me this gum part of it. Him and a million posts on APUG and things back in the day. Anyway, yeah, there you go. I'm really, really pleased with this one. I hope you can see it. And this one's good too, because you can kind of, when you look on the edges of it before it dries, you can see the relief. You know, the areas where the gum stayed is a little higher up, so it leaves kind of a relief to it. It's really, really beautiful. It tends to go away when it dries, but if you add more layers of gum, which is what I've been doing with some of the prints lately, is, you know, adding 3, 4, 5 different layers of gum, and it really builds up, and the image starts to shine in a way. And areas where there's not so much gum, they're a little bit less, and that too adds a little bit more to that depth and that that, tactile quality of the print that you just don't get with other forms of printing. So anyway, let's get this back up here. I got one more that I'm going to expose, but I don't think I'll bore you with that. Let's see if anybody else got anything. Hey, Matt. Yeah, it definitely has that carbon relief look. It's really cool how it does that. Let's see, James. Can suitable digital negatives be created from 35 millimeter negatives? Oh yeah, you can create suitable digital negative from anything that comes out of your phone. Check some of my, if you look through my playlist of stuff, look at some of the digital negative stuff that I've done, because I actually do one with one that came out of my iPhone. But yeah, as long as you've got some sort of a digitized form of that, you can take your 35 millimeter negative, you'll have to scan it in some way, or nowadays you can put it on a nice LED light table and you can photograph that with your high resolution digital camera if you have a macro lens, which actually gives you a better scan than a scan does. But then you take that scan and then you can convert that into a digital negative. So yes, it can be done, James. So yeah, there's a lot of information through my website or through the YouTube channel for doing that. So if you'd like to find that out, and also if you're on Facebook, look up digital negatives on there, because there's a group for digital negatives on Facebook, and there's quite a lot of knowledgeable people in there as well. That'll help you out. Yeah, come over in the fall. Come to the beach. Yeah, Carrick's living out near Pismo Beach now, and I'm dying. I'm sitting up here freezing in the woods, and I'm watching his Facebook posts of, gallivanting along the shoreline, and I'm dying for it. I got plenty of shoreline here, but it's solid ice right now. So, although Carrick, it's getting a little warmer. Today's 45 degrees out there, and it's dripping, and it had rained about a half inch last night, but fortunately it warmed up today and that ice melted. But I still got about 2 feet of snow on the ground, so the rain doesn't help a whole lot. But we're getting there. It has to get better, right? It has to get better. Yeah, dig into it, James. It's pretty cool, and I've done it a lot. I've got a host of 35 millimeter negatives from back in the day that I've been working on lately, and it's remarkable what you can do. If you get a really good curve and you get a really good negative, it's pretty remarkable. I still would like to do silver printing again someday, but I just haven't been able to for the last few years. And this kind of gets my yayas out in the alchemy side of it. It's a whole different animal, of course, but you still get to play in the dark room. Only you get to leave the lights on, which is kind of nice. But anyway, I'll get back into more of that later at some point in my life. I know that there's a lot of people out doing it, and I'm starting to think about getting into the digital negative side of using silver chloride paper and doing contact prints, but I'm not really well versed in that at all yet. I'm just sort of starting to get into it, so I don't really want to give any information, because it would be, I know enough to be damaging, that kind of thing. So let's see here. 48 was your overnight low. Yeah. See, 48 I think is like, I'm going to go out and in a t-shirt after this, and I don't know, I got to get outside. But yeah, it is nice to have it warm and to not have the furnace go on every 30 seconds, It's been a cold one, that's for sure. 70s. Yeah, you're down in Texas. I don't want to hear about that stuff. But actually, David, it's really a good idea. I when you were mentioning also Big Bend, that's on my bucket list too. So, you, Mike, I was gonna, at some time in the future when I get ready to do that, I definitely want to contact some people, because it'd be fun to meet up out there. That would be great. I like to do social photo group things. I'm private as far as my work that I do myself, I suppose, but I like to work in groups, and I like it when there's a lot of people around. As you well know, Carrick, Jerry, David, you've all been on trips with me, and you know what happens. It's pretty fun. So anyway, yeah, let's see here. I really appreciate you guys watching. This is great. Next week I'm going to be on again. I do it at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Throughout the week, if this video will get repurposed and put up there. I'm not really sure how I'm going to work that out, because I had the 2 fits and starts thing. It's going to be kind of choppy. I might try to put them all together in one or something, but YouTube kind of limits me on certain things that I can do once it's done. But But yeah, I'll be back on again next week, and now I know a little bit more about this. I won't have an SD card in here, so it won't shut off, and I know how to get my mic working now and not have it unplugged in my pocket, so you're actually listening to my pocket and not me. I'll see you then. Throw some mail my way if you want me to talk about anything specific, or if there's any specific things you want to know, because if I don't know them, I tend to know somebody who does, and you've got several of them on right now, which is very cool. So anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks, James. Thanks, Daryl. Thanks, James. Thanks, Jerry, Cmyk, Matt, Daryl, Matt. It was great to see you again last week, and I'll talk to you more about that. Maybe as I get a little better at this, we can do some cross things. Oh, and I definitely want to talk to you, Matt, about photo stock. I don't know how or if you would want to participate again, but it'd be really great to have you back. And we're going to be doing it different this year. It's going to be back kind of the old way, where we're just going to be in the little town park, and it's going to be a little bit more low key, less pressure and stuff like that. So anyway, all right, everyone. I think I'm going to leave it at that. I'll talk to you later. Thanks for being here, and